Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Arden Thomas. The name of the talk is Building a Business with Cincom Smalltalk, and I'll be going through and giving you basically a setup to the work that we'll be doing, and then for most of the presentation, Dirk will be demonstrating some tools. So we'll be building software to support a business in Smalltalk, and we'll also show you some of the tools from the Object Studio environment to do that. If you have any feedback on this talk or the talk earlier today, we're happy to hear any questions, comments, suggestions. So the objective of this talk is basically to show you how to build software to support a business. And we don't want to show you a couple things and then show you an end result, and it's like, well, wait a second, how did you get from point A to point B? We're going to take a piece of each part of the software and show you in some detail for the time we have, of exactly how it's done. So when we show you an end result, that's with a little more time taken, you'll know exactly how we got there. No faith or magic involved. We're going to show you how to use some of the tools and what they can do for you from the Object Studio product. And again, we'll show you the end result with taking a little more time of what the end result can look like. So, some of the things that we'll be showing you how to do design and modeling with the modeling tool, code generation that the product does, bidirectional development. Now, what this allows you to do is build a model and then generate a whole framework from all the information that you input into the model. And the way tools like this normally work is you do your model and you generate your code, the developer goes in, changes some things, but then the architect comes back and makes changes from up here and regenerates, and it wipes out all those changes and customizations that were done. And Object Studio tools do not work like this. They work bidirectionally, so you can have an architect and a developer working together, and the changes they make are reflected at the other end. So it's an important feature of the product, and we'll give you at least one example of that. We'll show you how to do object relational mapping with in database creation with the tool and some different options that you have there. How to construct client interfaces with this product, and even how to the web interface capability. We won't take you through too much on actually building the web interface, but we thought it an important piece to show. We simply don't have the time to go through the creation of that. The Cincom Smalltalk arsenal of products with Object Studio, it's all about business. It's a Windows-centric platform, and it's the business and analyst's thinking tool. And VisualWorks also is the cross-platform, do anything everywhere product. Now here's an important thing that a lot of you may not be aware of. There's a lot of sharing between these two products that you may not realize. For example, if you use VisualWorks, you can still use the tools that you're going to see here in Object Studio, export them, and use them in VisualWorks. Also, for Object Studio users, pretty much since they both share the same common base, most of the API that's available in VisualWorks is also available to someone using Object Studio. So there's a lot of sharing that you can do between the two. So the scenario is that Dirk and I have been hired to solve a failed attempt to build software for a recently started business. And that business, here's the business, notice the sign on the wall there, Innovation Fitness, which you might guess is a health and fitness club. So this is a fairly large health and fitness club. They've got exercise machines in a large open area. They have 3 outboard classrooms. One set up with exercise bicycles for spinning classes. The other 2 have mats and other equipment for other classes, along with sound systems. So a typical large health club. So the health club, what are some of their basic requirements? They need a software system to track membership, member information, member dues, club attendance, guest attendance, and more. They want to do promotions. They want to send out an email newsletter monthly to its membership. They want the system to automatically send out happy birthday emails to its members. And they want to do some promotions where the people that have signed up as guests, they can send out promotions to try to get people to join the club. And as helping this health club, Dirk and I have to understand, what is the health club interested in? They're interested in keeping their members happy and bringing in new members. Another requirement is the club wants a web presence. They want people to be able to go onto their web page, see the club hours, contact information. They want to be able to see the class schedule online. And also, with the classes, there's limited size. So normally when they come to the club, a member comes into the club, they can sign up for a class to reserve a spot in that. And one of the things Dirk and I need to do is, where we see opportunities to help enhance the software and provide new ideas for this client, that we bring them up. So an idea Dirk and I had was, well, if we have a website, what about 2 hours before a class, you can go online and reserve a spot. So that way, if a person is still at work, before they leave work, they can reserve a spot in the class and then leave for the health club, or do it on their mobile phone. So they're on their smartphone and they reserve a spot in the class on their drive to the health club. We can't forget other things. Employees have to log into the software. We need to do regular backups of the system. And you need a backup plan. For example, what if the reader that checks people in fails? We need a manual means of doing that the front desk attendant can sign them in. What if the whole computer system crashes? So you need contingencies and plans thought out, because this is a business. They can't just say, oh, our computer crashed, send everybody home and lock the doors. They need to have some manual things, and when the computer system's back up, enter things. So need to think through all the details. The details are really important. So our starting point here is that we've got a database of current members from the prior attempt to build software. And we're going to show you how you can use that and how we can in fact get it into the format that we want. So methodology. Object Studio supports methodologies like Rumba, Code Jakobson, Worfsprach, Fusion, or even just Freeform. And we recommend, if this is a first time going through it, where you've got a large group, probably a good idea to choose one of the more rigorous methodologies and use it. If you're a small group and are familiar, you can use the tools in a freeform fashion to do your work. So what's the process? Well, first we're going to start out with an overview, looking down on the business to understand it, understand the terminology, take an inventory of what they have. And then a really important piece is the interview process. We want to understand the business, make checklists, and order those checklists to prioritize them so we understand what's most important to the customer or client. Details make all the difference here. We need to get down into some detail because certain things will directly impact how we model the business and produce the software to support that. So the basic process is that we interview the client, we produce a model, we walk through that model with the client, and either they agree or they say, well, that's what I said, but now that I look at that, maybe it should really be like this, or that's incorrect, but it's close. So you need to go through an iterative process so everybody's on the same page, everybody has an agreement of how the business operates. So verify, rework, and repeat. So the process will be building use cases, and through those use cases we'll be discovering actors and domain objects. An actor is something external to the system that interacts with it. A use case describes how an actor interacts with the system, and domain objects are things that fall out that we need to account for in our software system. So some examples of actors are a club member, guest, the employee, the front desk person, that's the person who smiles and greets you when you walk into the health club. The membership coordinator, that's the person who gives you a tour of the health club and then signs you up if you want to join. An instructor teaches one of the health classes that are offered, the many classes, many instructors. And like a lot of health clubs, you can also hire a trainer to customize a health routine and teach you the proper form in all the exercises. Some use cases: sign up a new member, sign up a guest, member check-in, check-out, and guest check-in, check-out. Now, all the health clubs I've belonged to over the years, they check in a member, but they don't check them out. Well, when Dirk and I looked at this, we found that they wanted to use an RFID reader, so they give each person a little RFID tag that they put on their keychain, and when that member walks through the readers, it will automatically check them into the club. So that's really nice. Of course, if that's down, we can manually check them in with the software, but it automatically checks them in. So Dirk and I thought, well, would it be of value to you if we also automatically check them out? And they thought about that and said, that's a great idea, because I can see how long a member is using the club and try to understand that better and try to use that knowledge for attracting more people to the club. Just gathering more information about how people use the club. So they really appreciated those type of ideas and insights that we had. Some domain objects: the RFID tag that we give each member, the member's credit card, the equipment throughout the club, the exercise room, exercise class. These are all domain objects in our system. A use case might be send out the monthly newsletter via email. One other idea that we had is with the RFID tags, they make special tags that can save up information. And we thought we might put a small tag on each moving piece of machinery in the club. This way we can track how much each piece of exercise machinery is being used. Because maybe some things are being used all the time and the club wants to buy more. Maybe some things are not popular and nobody uses them. So they might want to put something different in there. Or maybe it's broken and they don't realize it, but all of a sudden they get back information that says nobody's using this. So more ideas to get more information and improve the health club. Some more domain objects: membership. Here's a couple more: membership period and membership hold. Remember I said details are really important. One of the things that we learned was that if a member goes, say, on holiday for a month, they can put their membership on hold. And this is an important piece that we need to reflect in the system to be able to, their termination date for their membership and move that out a month if they put their membership on hold. So we need all those details. We're going to be showing you some tools in Object Studio. Like I mentioned, that's the business analyst thinking tool. Let's architects and analysts, along with developers, to work together to develop the software. It's a Windows-centric. It's Windows 7 approved. It has object modeling and mapping, and we're going to be demonstrating that. I mentioned the bidirectional capability, which is really important because you don't wipe out all your work, but you can work together to move forward and see the results reflected at both ends. The generation is white box. And what that means is that it generates a whole framework and scaffolding and code for you. But what if your standards are a little different? What if you want what it generates to be a little different? You have all the source code. What if you wanted to do a little more? Again, you have all the source code. You can go in and change and customize for your specific needs, which is also very unusual to other systems like this. The round-trip engineering, I mentioned, the bidirectional capability. The object relational mapping tools will also do database creation and can be used in a number of ways that I'll talk about in a minute. A lot of databases and communication protocols are supported, and I mentioned this is built on the Foundation platform. Object Studio has a number of explorers in it. You're going to see some of those explorers, like a use case explorer, design explorer. There's others like CRC, classes, responsibilities, collaborators is what that stands for. Explorer, which is supported by some of the methodologies. There's a lot of different tools to support a number of different ways of doing things, and you can pick and choose what you want to use. So what are we going to be showing you? We'll show you how to build out the business domain, build the domain model with the modeling tool, and generate that. along with the code. We'll give you a bidirectional example, and then we'll show you how to map those domain objects to the database. Now, there's three typical ways the mapping tool can be used. We're going to show you the typical way, where you model the system, you generate your domain models, and then from those you create the database tables. But there's other ways in which this can be used. It can be used to, you can model your domain, generate the domain models, and then you can map existing tables. Say you've got a legacy system, you can map existing tables to your domain models. And an atypical way, but it still may be useful in certain circumstances, is that you can generate your domain right from the tables. So you just want to generate objects and pull all this data in to work with it or convert it or whatever. That is an option that you have. This is what the mapping tool looks like, and Dirk will be showing you that in more detail. I mentioned we have a starting point of a database of existing customers, but it is not in the format that we want. So what we can do is connect to that old database, write a descriptor system for it so we can pull in all the data, create the objects, and then write it out with a new descriptor system that has the data in the format that we want. So we can easily use that old data. We don't have to throw it out and start over, and we can easily convert it to the format that we want using these tools. Interfaces, we've got lots of options. Three that we'll be using in the Health Club. We'll be demonstrating how to construct a client interface. We will show you an example of a running web browser interface that works against the same domain model. So we'll have client interfaces and web interfaces running against the same domain model. And also we'll have an RFID, the club will have an RFID interface to check members in when they come into the club. And for that we used an ActiveX component to integrate it into the system. So these are the Cincom Smalltalk products, and now we'll have Dirk come up and show you exactly how this is done. So here's Dirk live without a net.
Okay. Everyone hears me? Yeah. Okay. So we are going to create a small application based on what Arlen just told us. It will be about a member and his credit card information. We'll build some hierarchy, but we're not going to really use it in the demo. So I first open the modeling tool, create a new model. You can rename the model, but I'm not going to do it because of the limitations of time. I create a submodel, and I will simply open the object diagrammer. I like to develop in a diagrammer to see visually what I'm creating, to see the classes and to see the relationships. So I'm going to create some classes. The first class I'm going to create is person. I'll make it an abstract one. Apply. Another one will be member. We'll have an employee. I'm going to create a trainer and the front desk just to show you. And I also need a class named credit card. Okay, we've created them. I'm going to rearrange them a little bit so it looks a bit nicer. And now we're going to add some hierarchy into our model. So I simply click from superclass to subclass, and I release it. So person is a superclass of employee and of member. Employee is a superclass of trainer and front desk. Now we've created our hierarchy in our model. Now I'm going to add some attributes or instance variables. I'm going to add some on person, on member, and on credit card. We're going to edit these. So person will have an ID because it's a persistent class, and it will be of the integer type. We will have a first name, which is a string. Last name. We provide an email, just for simplicity now. We keep that as a string. And we also have a date of birth, which is of course date. And these are the attributes we'll be using on the person. Move this a bit. On member, we simply add one attribute, registration date, which is also a date. Credit card will have some more attributes. We'll have an ID also, because it's also persistent. Class. We'll have an expiration month. We'll keep it an integer, expiration year. A card type, which will be a string. This will be MasterCard, Visa, or any kind of card. And we'll have a number. I will keep it also a string. So we've created our classes, our attributes. We still need a relationship between the member and the credit card, so we're going to make that. Simply click from member to the credit card, and we have a one-to-one relationship between the two of them. We can edit this, because we say a member can have more than one credit card, so a member refers to 0 or more credit cards. Credit card has exactly one member, so we have it in both directions. And I can change some more details like cardinality or the name of the attribute in the class changes to credit cards, for example. And you will see it will fit over that the attribute is called credit cards instead of credit cards. So we've created model, hierarchy, relationships. So we're going to generate the code for this. I first show you that I have no code for this in the system. If I search for credit card, I have no class. So simply do tools synchronize implementation. I don't want to see the warnings, and I'm going to create this in a package called easy fitness. And I generate the code. You see we have some methods here in the system. If I open it, you see this is simply a getter for date of birth. If I now take my class browser and search for credit card, you see that I have a class credit card and I have a package easy fitness with all my classes in it, all the methods. Simple accessors like we have some initialization code, this is the domains, and we have some code to maintain relationships between different objects. On class side, we have some initialization methods which initialize the domain, which tells you which attribute is which type, and also some information about the relationships that the system uses and you can also use in your own development further on. Now, Arden talked about bidirectional. I'm going to show this on the person class, because while I'm developing, I noticed, we want to know the age of a certain person. So we're going to create an age method. So I'm going to add this method. I'll take the code for it. So we simply take the date of birth. Let me paste it. I hope you can see it. So we take the date of birth. If it's no, we tell the system it's not available. If it's not no, we calculate the years between the current date and we simply print it as a string just to be compatible. If I now save this and I go to the model, you will see that I also have an age method here. And if I open it, you see that it's exactly the same code as we have in the class browser. This also works in the debugger. So if you have a debugger and you change code or you add methods, they will be reflected in the model automatically. Now we have the classes in our system. Now we need tables to be able to save our data and retrieve it later on. So I'm going to open the mapping tool, sorry. I create an atlas. I also call it easy fitness. I create a database connection. Sorry, it takes some time. and I choose the platform, which is Postgres, and I connect to it. I take oh, I don't have the public schema, so I'll create it somewhere else. I add my classes from the modeling tool. I simply select them all and create them. Now we were going to focus on the member and the credit card, so I simply create a table for the member. Right click, create table, and you see I immediately have a member table with ID, email, and so on. So I can simply, I'm going to create a public folder. In this public schema. I'm going to change the ID field because it will be a serial. We want those sequences there. You see, it automatically makes it as primary key, but it should make it unique also. Okay. We do the same for credit card. Also, what is the public? We change the ID of the serial, make it primary key, and save. So we've created our tables this way. In the image, they're not created on the database yet. I forgot one thing. Credit card has a foreign key constraint, so I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to add the foreign key constraint, add a relationship. The member column of credit card will refer to the ID of member. Create it, save. And if I now refresh this one, you see that credit card refers to the member table. Now we simply, I first show you my Postgres. You see I have nothing here. And I'm going to create it. Generate all tables. Tables are created. And if I refresh it, I have my tables here. Also, the foreign key constraints are created, and we have sequences created as well, as you see here. Now, how do we insert data into this? I have a script here. It's this one. I don't know, is it visible? Yeah? So I'm first going to load two classes. One is an ESIC manager. All it does actually is, I'm going to ask the ESIC manager a session, and if I don't have a session, he will make a connection with the database and return me a database session. That's all it does. The other thing is something I'm going to use later on, and if I had time, I'll show it, but it's not vital for the demo. I now will ask a session to the ESIC manager. I will create two members, start the unit of work, register my two members, and I'm going to fill the data of these members. I also create two credit cards. I insert both of them to the first member, and I commit my unit of work. So I'm going to do this. Let's go through really quickly. I think the file wasn't there. Let's try it. No. Oh, wait. Sorry, I went a bit too quickly. We've created the tables, but I forgot to create the database descriptor. Because right now, we have the mappings in memory, of course, but we haven't got any code written for this. So I'm going to, and yeah, one time pressure, which is we have tables, we have classes, and I forgot to map them together, of course. Because we have credit cards on one side, tables, and we have credit card class on the one side, but we don't know how to match them. So I'm going to match them. Simply do the mapping. And if you now look at the member, you will see that it's mapped to the member table. The attributes are mapped to a column, and we even see a one-to-many relationship between the credit card, and we see how the relationship is built. The same for credit card. We've made the mapping also one-to-one relationship between member and credit card here. And we're going to save this into a descriptor system. And this is what you actually use in your application. So in Object Studio, you can create your descriptor system with this tool and simply use the written code from the tool into Visual Works, and you can work with it. I think you can even use it on own small docs if you really want. So I'm going to write the descriptor system. Easy Fitness. And if I now look to my class browser, you will see that I have an Easy Fitness descriptor system. It contains information about the class, which Carsten showed yesterday, information about the table, and information about the mapping itself. I need to read this one here. And this we can use. Sorry, I went a bit too quickly. Now we're going to use the code I just created.
So just to recap where we are, we've modeled the business, we've generated the infrastructure, generated the classes, created the database tables, and populated the database tables. All the information we put into this tools have been used to generate Smalltalk code to give us a running head start at developing this business software.
So now I'm going to execute the code that inserts the member and the credit card. So I use this. Now it works. And if we look back at the tables now, if we look at all the rows, you see that I have 2 credit cards, and you see that I have 2 members. So Lord, even while I didn't register the credit card objects, he still saved them into the database because they were in a relationship with the member. And he automatically detected he had to write these as well. So we have one side classes, tables. We have data in our database, so now we're going to create a small GUI. I go back to the modeling tool. I'm going to choose create interface for interfaces. We're going to create an interface on member and create a new interface. So the Object Studio Designer comes up. I'm going to change the name of the designer. Of the controller, I will make member editor. And I open a subject window which contains all the attributes of the subject and also the methods. I'm first going to add a field for the first name. Because of the model, he knows it's a string, so he proposed an empty field, and I simply drag it on here. I'm going to take the last name.
Notice these tools give you a label and input field at the same time.
I'm interested in the date of birth, so he knows it's a date, so he takes a date field. I'm working on a European laptop, but the Innovation Fitness is an American company, so we changed the format of the date. So we simply change it to year, month, and date. And I'm going to show information on the credit cards. And I put this one here on the bottom. Now I need a field because I want to show the age of the person as well. So I'm going to add a regular entry field on it. Put it here. I want no border with it. It's not editable, it's not selectable. And I can tell them that I want it right aligned. So I've created my GUI. I'm going to create this GUI also in the Easy Fitness package. Okay, close it. And if I now open my class browser, you'll see we have a member editor controller, which we just created. Now we'll do a small query. So I'm going to read one member, and the last name is like VER, and we don't care about the rest of the name. We go execute this query and we put the subject or the object we get into the subject instance variable, and then we open the member editor with this subject. We simply put insert the class with the object we have into this controller. I execute this, and here we go. Oh, forgot one thing here. If I have the H field, I can link this to the H method we just created. In the model, I map them, close it. I need to create it again. So I re-execute the query. Now I have the H as well here. I told you I loaded two classes. The other class I loaded is actually credit card information. And it had some information what to show in the list bar. So you see the labels we show here on top of the tabular list box, the attributes we want to show, or the methods that are being executed, and the formatting that is being done for this. I simply loaded these in just to be sure that we got a nice window. So now I'm going to show you what we did for the Innovation Fitness Center. So the first thing is this is a view of a more complex model, or part of a model, because it's not even the whole model. But you can do quite complex things with it. And I'm going to show you what the launcher is for the application. It's also the thing that the front desk people have on their desk. So they can see, right now there's 0 people in the fitness, the courses that are being given or are coming up. And you also see a description of the course, who's currently registered for it, and when the next occurrence of this certain course or this class will occur. Now we simulate the entrance of some people. I'm going to reset my database connection. Letting people enter. I think I missed one thing. Enter. He's not doing it. Strange. I have to skip this part.
But this is just because it's a demo, don't worry.
Yeah, I think so, but we've rehearsed it about 20 times each time it works, so it's weird.
And if it was, well, we'll see what the issue is, but one of the things we did also was, another one of the suggestions that we made to the business is, if you can check people in and out, we can also keep account of how many people are in the club, in case they have to meet any local fire regulations or anything else. Also, the person at the front desk who's closing up the club at night, as each person checks out, they'll see exactly how many people are left in the club. So maybe they want to close and it says, oops, there's 3 people still in the, probably in the locker rooms finishing up. So they give more information like that based on some of the suggestions. Do you want to go through and show the web interface?
Okay. So we also created a web interface which is based on IDA Web and Swazoo server. So I started the server. I hope this one works. Something weird is going on. This is not what I expected. Let me try this.
You had
an
exception there.
It might be a resolution problem we're having with the.
Is it a small side exception?
It's on the right side. It's on the right.
Oh, here, yeah. We start this one.
One of the things you'll see in the web browser interface was that we actually had our marketing guy do what he wanted the browser interface to look like.
Yeah.
And Dirk went in and actually linked all that up to our domain model. So we're able to use all the skills available to us.
So we have different pages, which are quite easy. Some events coming up, some content information. The interesting part is the schedule, where you can see which courses are being given. You can pass some information about the course. And like Barton said, the courses that are coming up within the next 2 hours, you can simply register for them. For instance, I want to register for this one. I enter my ID number. Each member gets his own PIN code, which they can change themselves. And I register myself. If I now look at this course to the limit, you should see that the last register, there's something going wrong with the database. Because normally you should be able to see here that the person is registered for it. Yeah, maybe what we're starting to see.
What we actually wanted to show here, so here's the actual client interface that's running in the club. People can go on a web browser, or eventually also we'll do one for mobile phones. They can register for a class, and the people at the front desk are seeing that show up immediately at the client application at the front desk. So both applications are using the same domain model. And also these are more full-featured applications, but we walk through all the different steps, including how you go through constructing the client interface, and then a slightly more full-featured version. The only time we didn't really have time to go into was actually constructing the how to hook up our browser application into our domain model. But that's all available to you also. And that's our presentation. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
I asked this question a couple of years ago, and the answer was negative. So is there now support for migration of data? So, for example, you refactor your model, and you have all your data in there, but what are you doing with all this data when the shape of the tables is changed?
It depends on how much the tables change. What we can do with if you have a major change of the database design, you will have an old descriptor system which reads that data into your system, in your object, and on the other side you have another descriptor with another database connection, and you simply write it out through that connection.
Yeah, understood, but that's made by me, by hand. It's supported in the process.
Yes, I mean, there's tools to support it, but that's still a process you have to go through. And that's actually what we described for taking the old database and moving it into the format that we wanted.
My question is about that screen, I don't know the name, sorry, but where you graphically accommodate your
Modeling tool?
The modeling tool, yeah, right. But the question is, what if the application gets growing, how you support escalation? Because the graphic view could be cluttered, too crowded, right?
Yeah.
Do you have ways to, I don't know, group things and collapse and hide or add more tabs?
Well, when I started, I created a submodel, so you can create multiple, actually unlimited number of submodels, and in each submodel you group actually the objects that you think that belong together. Also on the diagram, you can zoom in and zoom out. So you can really make it very, very small, but on the other hand, you don't see much then. So
So the idea is for the programmer to work in that window. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
More than.
Well, it's more to sit down with the business analyst or the for the customer and do it together with
To
them.
check.
And,
Okay.
yeah. It's more a collaboration.
Yeah.
Or even for at that level, the business person or system architect to work at that level with possibly some assistance. Any more questions?
Yes, one more question concerning the interaction between modeler and developer. Perhaps it takes
Approach the mic.
perhaps it expressing your direction to have special support for more than one developer, because it showed us the bidirectional possibilities, and of course I would like to know what if you have 15 developers.
Currently, we only one model at the same time. That's the current state of business. We're looking into making this more collaboration between multiple developers or modelers, but this is just in the pipeline. We're looking at what we can do on that and how to do it. At the moment, no.
That's a good question, actually. I just put it on my product management.
If I may interrupt, sorry. On the other hand, what you can do, you know that there's a store still in there in Visualworks and in Object Studio. So if you have one modeler and multiple developers, so you spit out one model, generate the code for it, put it in store, everybody makes the changes, so you have to merge, but then the modeler gets the changes for all of the developers, for all of the 50 developers, and those changes are still reflected in your model. So if you have one modeler and 50 developers, that still works. If you have multiple modelers, as Arden Thomas said, we are looking into that.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.